For millennia, the top of the world was a dead end. The Arctic Ocean, a realm of perpetual ice and crushing cold, was not a pathway but a barrier. It was a fortress of nature that had thwarted the ambitions of empires and claimed the lives of the world's most daring explorers. Yet for the Soviet Union, a nation whose coastline was dominated by this frozen sea, it was a constant nagging strategic problem. The dream of a northern sea route, a maritime shortcut between Europe and Asia, along its northern shores was a promise of immense economic and military power. But this was a dream held captive by a monster of ice. In the mid-20th century, the Soviet Union possessed the world's largest fleet of icebreakers, but they were bound by the fundamental limitations of their time. They were powered by diesel. This meant they were thirsty. Their range was finite, their fuel tanks a constant tether back to port. Their power was limited, capable of tackling the seasonal ice of early winter and late spring, but often helpless against the multi-meter thick, multi-year pack ice that formed the true heart of the Arctic's defenses. The northern sea route remained a seasonal gamble, a brief window of opportunity in a year of frozen impossibility. For a superpower determined to project its will across its entire territory, this was an unacceptable vulnerability. The strategic stakes were astronomical. The Arctic was not just a shipping lane, it was a potential battlefield, a hidden flank for submarine operations, and the repository of unimaginable mineral and energy wealth in Siberia. To leave this vast frontier untamed was to leave the nation's back door unlocked and its greatest treasure chest buried. The existing fleet, for all its might, could only nibble at the edges of the problem. A convoy of ships led by a diesel icebreaker was a slow, vulnerable procession, always racing against the clock before the ice closed in again. Always constrained by the logistics of refueling in one of the most remote places on Earth. The dream of turning the northern sea route into a reliable, year-round artery, a red silk road was impossible with this technology. The ice was too thick, the distances too vast, the winters too long and dark. A new kind of power was needed. Not just more power, but a different kind of power. A power that was not measured in tons of fuel, but in decades. A power that was relentless, inexhaustible, and capable of declaring war on the Arctic winter itself. The Soviet state, a regime defined by grand, audacious projects and a mastery of nuclear physics, conceived of a solution that was as terrifying as it was brilliant. They would not just build a bigger icebreaker. They would unleash the heart of the atom onto the surface of the sea. The proof of concept was the icebreaker Lenin, the world's first nuclear-powered civilian vessel. She was a triumph, but she was a prototype. To truly conquer the northern sea route, the Soviets needed a fleet. They needed a class of ship built for one purpose, to dominate ice. This was the birth of Project Co 520, the Arctica class, a new breed of Leviathan. The lead ship, launched in 1972, was named Arctica. She was a machine of superlatives. The Arctica was built around a simple, brutal principle: overwhelming power. At her heart were two OK-900A nuclear reactors. These reactors generated immense quantities of steam to power 3 massive turbines, which in turn produced 75,000 shaft horsepower. This gave her the raw, relentless strength to crush through sea ice over 2 meters thick at a steady pace. But her true advantage was her endurance. While a diesel icebreaker could operate for a month or two before refueling, the Arctica's nuclear heart allowed her to operate for years without returning to port. Her only limitation was the endurance of her crew and her provisions. Her hull was a masterpiece of Soviet engineering, a unique, spoon-shaped bow designed to ride up onto the ice and crush it under the ship's immense 23,000-ton weight. The steel of her ice belt was inches thick, capable of withstanding the colossal pressures of the polar pack. The Arctica was not just an evolution, she was a revolution. She was a declaration that the constraints of fuel and range were now obsolete. She was a tool designed to permanently tame the northern sea route. The ultimate proof of this new power came in August of 1977. In a mission of immense national prestige and scientific importance, the Arctica cast off her lines in Murmansk and pointed her bow north. Her objective was a place that had existed only in the realm of myth and the dreams of explorers: the geographic North Pole. No surface ship in history had ever reached it. On August 17th, after a relentless 3-day smash through the polar ice cap, the Arctica achieved the impossible. Her crew stood on the top of the world, a stunning demonstration of Soviet technological supremacy that resonated across the globe. This was no mere publicity stunt. It was the definitive proof that the Arctica class could go anywhere, at any time. A dynasty of these Red Leviathans followed. The Sibir in 1977, the Rossiya in 1985, the Sovietsky Soyuz in 1989, and the Yamal in 1992. These ships became the workhorses of the Soviet, and later, the Russian Arctic. They were not explorers. They were the lifeline. Year after year, they carved channels through the ice, escorting convoys of freighters, tankers, and container ships to the remote industrial cities of Dudinka and Pevek. They enabled the extraction of the vast mineral wealth of Siberia, the foundation of the nation's economy. They performed daring rescue missions, freeing ships trapped in the ice, and conducted vital scientific research, mapping the Arctic seabed and studying the changing climate. They became so reliable, so powerful, that in her later years, the Yamal, with her iconic shark's teeth painted on her bow, even became a unique cruise ship, carrying tourists on the same epic journey to the North Pole that her sister ship had pioneered. The legacy of the original Arctica class is nothing short of monumental. They were the ships that truly conquered the northern sea route, transforming it from a dangerous gamble into a semi-reliable shipping artery for the first time in history. They wrote the entire operational rulebook for nuclear-powered icebreaking, a body of knowledge and experience that remains unique to Russia to this day. They were powerful symbols of the Soviet Union's command of both nuclear technology and its vast northern territory. Even after the collapse of the Soviet Union, these aging but still mighty ships continued to serve, becoming critical economic assets for the new Russian Federation. Their decades of service provided the invaluable data and experience needed to design their successors, the new Arctica class of Project 2020 and the future Leader class. They are the direct ancestors of the new nuclear czars, the giants upon whose shoulders the future of the Arctic is being built. The original Arctica class icebreakers were more than just ships. They were the embodiment of a unique national ambition, a testament to the will to conquer one of the last true wildernesses on Earth. They were the Red Leviathans, the titans of the Cold War who dared to challenge the polar ice with the power of the